So the Gemara differentiated. We left off Nun Beis Amud Aleph on the bottom. We quoted a Baraisa. It says that if a person steals something from a woman, something that belongs to her, and he gives it to her for kiddushin, it says she's mukadeshes. So the Gemara asked the question. The Rav had inferred from the Mishnah that even if you give it to her and she's silent, she's Eina mukadeshes. Because the case of the Mishnah is speaking about, he takes a basket of figs during Shemitah, which are hefker, and he gives it to the woman, says, Eri mukadeshes, she's mukadeshes. So Rav says, why does the Mishnah have to speak that fruit was taken during Shvius from their field? It's only because it was hefker. But if it wouldn't have been hefker, it would have been theirs. Although it's given to the woman and she remains silent, it's hers. We don't say silence is an indication that she's willing to waive the obligation of the man, that it should be considered his. It's Eina mukadeshes. You can't. You can have, when you marry a woman, the woman doesn't say yes. Right? The woman remains silent. You give a woman a ring. Harei mukadeshes li b'tavazu. Das bush v'yisrael. She doesn't say a word. She accepts the ring. Is she married? But how do you know what her intent was? So her silence is what indicates that she's in agreement. She consents. So here, if you steal something, she knows it's her item. She knows it's hers. And you give it to her, and we say the average person understands, when you marry someone, you have to give them something that belongs to the one who's doing the act of marriage. So immediately, why are we saying her silence is an indication of acceptance? She's silent because, you know why? Because she's recovering what originally was hers. So we inferred from the Mishnah that factually her silence is not an indication of anything. Right? That's what the Mishnah says. She's not married. But the Baraisa says because it's Shvius. It's not hers. That's why she's married. Because it's Hefker. But the Baraisa says explicitly he steals a coin for her, and he gives her the coin, Harei mukadeshes li, and she remains silent and says mukadeshes. So how do we reconcile the Mishnah with the Baraisa? That's the worst question. V'mastis the gezli do kama Rav Eina mukadeshes. I'll tell you what's bothering me. It's not a question of Rav. I mean, the inference of the Mishnah, it's an irrefutable proof, right? Because otherwise, what does the Mishnah have to say? He took the fruit during Shvius. So Gemara is only attributing it to Rav. According to Rav, how do I reconcile the Mishnah with the Baraisa? And that Gemara says, lo kasha. Hadu shodich, hadu lo shodich. If they were previously engaged and they were meant to be married, his fiancée, who agrees and wants to marry him, even if he should take the coin from her and give it back to her because she really wants to marry him, we say her silence is an indication she's forgiving the obligation to return it. So therefore, when he gives her the item, although initially was hers, it's considered his. But if a person grabs a coin or fruit where it wasn't prearranged that they're going to be married, although she's remaining silent, we say her silence is not an indication. You know why? She's thankful that she's getting back what was rightfully hers. That's how the Gemara is differentiating. Hadi shadich, hadi lo shadich. What?
The strange mechanism. When she receives that coin, implicitly she is now, she's forgiven his obligation to return it.
Right.
And he's accepted it for marriage. All at the same time.
I'll give you an example. Two people are engaged to get married. Right? So when you date the woman, you go to a restaurant, you pick up the tab. Once you're already engaged, marriage is next week, and you go to a restaurant, does it make a difference who pays for it? You're almost married. She pays, he pays, it's the same thing. Right? Right? You don't see it's you and me. So when he takes her coin, she's so agreeable. If what's going to make the marriage is that you have to own it, even though you did it in a way maybe which wasn't the most refined way, I'm willing to waive it. So therefore, the coin that he gives her is his coin. But two people who've never met, he grabs the coin and says, Harei mukadeshes li. I don't know you from Adam. Who said I want to marry you? Therefore, the silence is not an indication she's agreeable to marriage. Very simple.
Rabbi, what about if the woman gives a man a present, a coin?
No way.
And then he uses it to...
no question. 100% she's married. Even a stranger. Right? She accepted it. She's agreeable to his coin. She gave him a gift. Now he says, I want to marry you with this gift. It's his, and she remains silent. So her silence is an indication she's agreeable. She's consenting to what he wants to bring about. She's married.
There's some case where there's no background. The silence some case without any background,
Yes,
or no?
yes, it's marriage. Not a, that,
Because
because a person within this context,
a woman wants to get married.
no. Because a woman would protest otherwise. I mean, there's a serious,
There's a negative influence.
very negative over here. I mean, that means I'm your wife. I don't want to be considered, there shouldn't be a question I'm your wife if I have no interest in marrying you. She would protest it immediately. Had a case many years ago. Somebody used to come here. He was married in Scarsdale, in Israel, Scarsdale. That's where the marriage took place. And the rabbi, he's marrying her, and they're observant. Both families were observant, the boys and the girls. And we go into, before he puts ash on the chosen's head, before the chuppah. So, before one goes to yet, zechul l'churban. So, this is the young Israeli rabbi. He's doing everything right. So I say to the rabbi, did you ask him before we go to the chuppah, is the ring his ring? It may not be his ring. That's a basic question you have to ask. It has to be your ring. So he asks the chosen, is it your ring? He says, there's a custom in my family. There's a family heirloom that anybody who gets married in the family uses this ring. Then we give it back to our grandmother. I'm just telling you, this is the story. So the rabbi, he was a very very good person. He wanted it to be done right. So immediately he summons the grandmother. It's her ring. It was passed down through generations. And he says to the grandson, in front of witnesses, I want you to give her $1 to purchase the ring, and I want to give it to you. And she says, I want you to say the ring is yours without any question. And that's what we did. Otherwise, it's not we had before Matanam Tislach for kiddushin. It's not simple, right? Creates complications. That's the story.
But then
But severe, it has nothing to do with it. Nobody's aware. He thinks the ring is his, but actually the ring is not his. It's only his to use for marriage, and he's giving it back to his grandmother. That's what he's doing over there.
Once he buys it from his grandmother, then it's his, and he gives it to his wife.
She doesn't have to give it back.
But
It's up to her. It's her prerogative. She could give it back if she wants.
If he tells her this is a family heirloom,
That's up to her now. It's not a conditional. He's not giving to her conditionally.
What do you have with all the people get married before we got married?
Okay. Hayitzo. Hayitzo dava kemashi kara b'mishichlo demayo. Right. In one situation, silence is an indication of acceptance. In the other situation, silence is not an indication of acceptance. She's remaining silent because she's getting her item back.
How we explain it? We haven't finished.
We did. Hada shodich, hada lo shodich. The brisa that says, well, you take her coin, you give it back to her, and she's silent, it's a marriage. Of course, they were engaged to be married. So therefore, she's agreeable. She wants to marry the man. So if all it takes is that it should be his, let it be his because it's going to bring back the marriage.
I would find a flaw in this logic. If they had agreed to be married after he had stolen the wife, I would say fine, because she's basically waived the right. But if they have an agreement to be engaged,
They weren't. They were engaged to be married. They were engaged to be married. The wedding's next week. He doesn't have a coin to marry her. He takes the coin from her, and now he uses that coin to marry her. And she knows it's her coin. We could say with certainty that he wants the coin to be her coin. She wants the coin to be his coin because she wants to be married to him.
I would say, how can you say with certainty that that's going to be the case?
That's what.
No, he gets.
No, he did steal it from her. He stole it from her. It doesn't make a difference.
This is a man who, at this point, I don't want the shidduch.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want the shidduch.
Okay.
If this is the level of integrity, there's no way.
Okay.
That's the flaw.
Okay.
Better to find out the bad news before you tie them up.
Okay. And the other way, where he doesn't know the woman from Adam, and he takes her coin, gives it back to her. She's going to be married. We're differentiating between two cases. Hadalo shodich means they weren't previously engaged. He steals the coin from her, and he says, Harei mukadeshesli, and she remains silent.
This
So why did she remain silent? Why she should have, if actually there's even a consideration, her silence, and she's married, she shouldn't have said, there's no way I'm marrying such a man. A man, if this is his level of integrity. So why did she remain silent? Evidently, she agreed. Right? You're right. Factually, he's lacking integrity. But she should have said something. If you don't want to be married to such a man, and you were previously engaged, you should have said something. Silence, the way it's understood, means you're agreeing despite that. Because there's a previous relationship. But if there's no relationship, there's not even a consideration that you would want to marry such a man. So a silence is not an indication of anything. That's how we're differentiating. That's a different discussion. Yeah, that's tashlumim. Can I ask you a question? I come into your office, and I take over, change the plaque, and the only way you could protect your business, you have to make a public protest, and you're going to embarrass the thief. You know, embarrassing a man is very serious. Here the woman is writing away her life to a person where she doesn't want to be married to the man. Well, she shouldn't say, I don't want to marry you. She does not say, you're a thief, I don't want to marry you. That's what she should say. My acceptance of the coin, I'm not agreeable to marry you. So how does she remain silent? Well, she's timid, you know, she's under a psychiatrist's care. So say that. So say that. No, he put it in your hand. The moment he puts it in your hand, immediately. Say immediately, the ring that I'm taking is not for marriage. As he puts it in, she has it. This is not. I don't want to marry you. Right? That's what she should say. So why did she remain silent? So silence is an indication that she's willing to look away. Thomas, she couldn't deal with it after the fact. Okay. I'll tell you the difference between Tamar and this. Difference. Tamar, she misled Yehuda. He thought she was a harlot. Here, he did something wrong to her. He steals from her, and now you said, but how do you embarrass me? I mean, he's the one who's lacking integrity. Then he's blaming her for embarrassing him. I put my hand in your pocket. I start screaming, thief. How do you have right to embarrass me? But you have your hand in my pocket. I shouldn't scream, you thief. They're not comparable. Many years ago, I had a case. I think David was at the lecture. It was before he was married. So we spoke about the whole concept of chesed, room full with people. This was on 63rd Street. And this person gets up in the back, must have been minimally 125 people there. And he says, if the obligation of doing chesed is so important, and there is a mitzvah, that's exactly what he says it, so why are Orthodox Jews not hospitable? He makes this statement in the presence of people who are secular, who haven't been exposed to religious people, but that's his comment. Yeah? So I said to him, what you're saying now is a lie, it's slander, and what you're saying is baseless. Okay? I said, just to the contrary, so and so. Afterwards, he comes over to me and says, do you realize you embarrassed me in public? So he said to me. I said, I don't want to ask a question. Did you ever study in yeshiva? He says, yes. I said, of course, the way you pronounce the word chesed, I understood you studied in yeshiva. Although he walked in without his head covered initially. So I said to him, you embarrassed yourself. Making such an irresponsible statement in a public setting, understanding who these other people are, you embarrassed yourself. Because there's no other way to respond to what you said other than the way I did. I didn't embarrass you, or you embarrassed yourself. Okay, let's go further. Who Gavro, well, here we have a case. Hahiitzo davi komashir kara b'mishichlu demayo. A woman, she was washing her feet in a basin. I mean, the Rishon asked, what do we have to give this background information? Also, Gavro chotav zuzi michavri. Here he went and he seized a coin, not from the woman, from a third party. From a third party. V'shadolo. And he threw it to her. Yes, again, he threw it. He didn't even give it to her. He threw it to her. Okay? Omar lo mukadeshesli, migdishli. He says, I want to marry you with this coin. And she remained silent. Asu gavra l'kami d'rabo. Omar li les tuchoshlo. Do Reb Shimon. He says, it's not even consideration, it's a marriage. Why? Because les tuchoshlo hodo Reb Shimon. Do mastam gzei lo yish bailim havi. Okay, let's talk about this. Everybody agrees that if a person, what's the difference between Geneva and Gzela? Geneva and Gzela. Geneva means somebody steals something on the QT where the person who's the victim is unaware of who stole it. He doesn't even know where to locate the stolen item. Gzela means open theft. Man comes, steals from you. So you know exactly who the thief is. So the question is, and you don't pursue immediately make a claim in court. So Reb Shimon's of the opinion the not making the claim is an indication that you've already watched, you've despaired. Because otherwise you immediately made the claim. That's Reb Shimon's position. The non-action is an indication of despair. The Chachamim argue with Reb Shimon. They said that it's not the case. It's not an indication of anything. Unless it's certain he despaired, the presumption is he did not despair. So according to Reb Shimon, in this case, he seizes the coin from another person, and he's aware of it. Who the thief was, and it doesn't protest nothing, doesn't make a claim in court. Now he takes that coin, gives it to a woman in marriage, and the woman remained silent. He didn't take her coin, so seemingly silence is an indication of what? She agreed to be married, but factually he's marrying with a coin which is not his. But according to Reb Shimon, that's silence in the case where it's open theft. The victim despairs, so if that's the case, she should be married. She would be married over here, right? No, because it's the one who's giving her the coin. Because the victim already despaired, according to Reb Shimon. It's the thief's coin. So if it's the thief's coin, the woman is not the victim, and she remained silent. He says, "Arei mukdeshesli," so she should be married. What other reason would she have to be silent here? She should have said something otherwise. If it's her own coin, you say,
Maybe like what's going on here? I don't know this guy.
no, but that's every case. That's every case. As long, no, that's what we discussed. If it's her coin, you say her silence is because she's thankful she's getting her object back. But over here, he didn't take her coin. He took a third party's coin. So why did she remain silent?
Did she know that it was stolen?
Did it make a difference whether she knew or not? Doesn't make a difference if she knows. Right? She's not the victim. She's not receiving something which was hers originally. So again, why she remained silent? Evidently, she's agreeable. Right? So what we said, the marriage is not a marriage, not because of her silence, because we don't rule like Reb Shimon, so therefore there's no yush. So if there's no yush, with whose coin is he marrying? With someone else's coin. Therefore it's any mukadeshes. So the Rishonim speak about it. Why do we speak over here that she was washing her feet in a basin? What do we need this background information? No. Right? Why do we have to speak? We'll get back to the embarrassment. I thought Russians don't have embarrassment. You know, you're a Ukrainian, you're not embarrassed. Okay? So the Rishonim say, you could say, let's say a person's preoccupied. Let's say a woman's kneading dough. Right? Let's talk Howard's language. A woman's kneading dough, and she's preoccupied. Somebody goes and does such a thing. You'd say, you know, the reason why she didn't react at all, because she's preoccupied, she's distracted. So maybe that would be the reason why she's not married. Right? So the silence is not an indication. So that Rav says, no, that's not the reason. If it would have been a situation, we'd rule like Reb Shimon, she would be married. Because something of such serious consequence, she would have reacted. She would have responded. It was only because the coin that he gave her was not his coin. That's the reason why she's in Mekudeshes. Sure. Why not? Person marries somebody in the cemetery, not a problem. No, first she's doesn't make a difference. Okay? Hahia Riso. There was a share.
So in the case before, we said that she is,
took the produce from their field. So who's the... But he has a right. He has a right to take that fruit. He has a right to take that produce. It's ownerless produce. So it's like taking money out of his own pocket, giving it to a woman. Yeah. Here it's a greater chiddush here. Here there's a greater chiddush here. That even though you could attribute it to distraction, despite that, if we would rule like Reb Shimon, she would be married here. The silence is an indication of acceptance, of consent. No, but Rabbi said, but since we don't rule like Reb Shimon, so therefore he's marrying somebody with somebody else's property, so she's not married. Okay? But you see again the same thing. Why is she married if we would rule like Reb Shimon? Because it's Yushishida Rishus. The thief himself cannot acquire it. Right? Because Yush in its own right is not sufficient. The thief cannot take possession. But since he transfers it to the woman, and the woman does acquire it, right? Because she has no obligation to return it because it's post-despair, and it came to her as a result of his giving it to her. So the object that was given was not his object. Nevertheless, but since she received something which she could acquire due to him, that's considered marriage. Yisrael, no. Right? Same idea. No, but we say this is not misasik. Because she's aware, when he gave it to she was misasik is unrelated to this. The case of misasik in Shabbos is, person has two gourds growing, and he has in mind to cut the gourd that's detached. And he mistakenly, his hand moves over, cuts the gourd the person's not even aware what he's cutting. That's misasik. He never even, I'll give you an example. What's shogeg, what's misasik? A person wakes up Shabbos morning, he thinks it's Sunday. And therefore he goes and he boils up a pot of water. That's shogeg. What about a person, he reaches for the towel in the bathroom and accidentally hits the switch and turns on the light? He never intended to put on the switch. He reached for the towel. That's not shogeg, that's misasek. He intended to do one thing and something else happened. There's no liability over there. Right? That's misasek. Here, no, she's aware she's receiving it. But you say maybe she's out of touch. She's not fully focusing. So you see, that's not. When it comes to this, it's sufficient that she's fully aware what's happening, therefore she should have protested. Right? That's the reason. Correct.
What about a woman who is not aware of the halacha of accepting a ring equates to being married? And she's silent. She doesn't say anything.
He said, I'm marrying you with this ring. According to law, he says that.
Oh, okay.
He's saying that. What? Of course, he said that. He did say that. Hahu ariso, the kodesh b'muza de shamchi. There was this sharecropper. Sharecropper, he gets a certain percentage of the crops. He takes, and the crop were onions. Okay? And he takes a handful of the onions where he hadn't divided yet with the owner of the field. So the onions, every onion is a different size. So we didn't evaluate the onions, whose is what. So the onions that he had in his hands, really, some of the onions are what? Are the onions of the owner of the field, because they didn't divide yet. And he said to a woman, Haret Mukadeshesli, Osl Kami de Rava. Again, they presented the case to Rava. Omalei man achloch. Yeah, he says, whoever waved, the owner of the field, did he ever relinquish his share of those onions that you had a right to marry with those onions? It was pre-dividing. Therefore, the marriage is not a marriage. Vani mili b'muza. That's only we're speaking about with a handful of the onions. Avol kisha, motzi omala anashakli kisha, shokolat kisha. We'll leave this for tomorrow.